I get the privilege of introducing our guest speaker. He's phenomenal. He's been here 3 or 4 times. And not only is he an author of 71 books, served in the military and the Army for 7 years, he hosts 3 weekly radio shows, has 19 children, 14 adopted, 15 grandchildren. Yeah. He is He's the Senior Vice President and co-founder of the NBA Orlando Magic. I don't know if you saw the 30 for 30 on ESPN last night, but Mr. Williams was there highlighted, and he's responsible for bringing Shaq to the Magic. He's promised that he'll get us a Shaq to come to Liberty, so let's give it up for Mr. Pat Williams.
Well, in light of the current political season, I am Pat Williams, and I approve that introduction. My message this morning comes from 1 Corinthians. Just kidding, Donald. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Everything rises and falls on leadership. It always has, and it always will. And it will always be a topic of great interest in our nation. You are here, oh yes, to get your degree, maybe even meet your lifelong mate. Perhaps play on one of the sports teams. But let me tell you why you're really here. You are here to get prepared for a life of leadership. It may be in the church, it may be in business, maybe in the military, could be in the field of athletics or medicine or education. But you're all here to get ready for a life of leadership. So my question this morning is simply this: what does a great leader look like? At the end of the day, what are the ingredients it takes to be a leader of excellence? I'm convinced, through my 50-plus years of leadership in professional athletics and my own personal study of great leaders, I'm convinced that there's 7 ingredients, 7 qualities that have to be there if you're going to be an outstanding leader. I'm going to share them with you in the short amount of time that I have here this morning. I'm going to share all 7 with you. I want to tell you in advance that all 7 have to be there if you're going to be an outstanding leader. If one ingredient is missing, well, that's going to be a gaping hole in your leadership arsenal. So I'm ready to share them with you. Are you ready to take them in? Are you ready to absorb these 7 qualities? If you've got some paper and a pencil, that would work. You may have one of those little devices with a screen on it, and oh yeah, everybody's plugged in. You ready? Here is the first quality that it takes to be an outstanding leader. It is called vision. Every great leader, every man and woman who has been successful as a leader understood the importance of vision. seeing before others, seeing farther down the road than others, seeing in vivid technicolor, while the rest of the world sees in grainy black and white. I knew your founder, Dr. Falwell. He was a good friend. And you talk about vision in leadership. I mean, it wasn't too many years ago that this whole section of Virginia was just open fields and open hills. There was nothing here. And a pastor named Jerry Falwell had a vision, did he not? He said, I can see a great university springing out of these hills and this open fields. I mean, he saw the whole thing before it even happened. That's what visionary leaders do. George Washington, you know what his vision was? A new nation, independent of Great Britain's rule. And Abraham Lincoln, his vision, one nation, not two, or five, or seven smaller ones. Winston Churchill's vision, a world free of Nazi oppression. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision, a nation where we would not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Oh, and Ronald Reagan. You know what Ronald Reagan's vision was from the time he got into politics? It was a world without communism. And Mr. Reagan was once asked if he had a strategy. And he said, well, I do. We win, they lose. And then he added, what do you think of that? Oh, when Jesus had a vision, I mean, he came talking about eternal life. His disciples couldn't grasp it, but he saw it clearly as you could imagine. In my Father's house, he said, there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place, I will receive you unto myself, so that where I am, you may be also. That was his vision. And then he closed out that little chat with Thomas and said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Here's the second quality if you're going to be a leader of excellence. It's called communicating your vision. Young leaders, it's one thing to have a vision, but if you cannot communicate it effectively, let me tell you what's going to happen to that vision. Nothing. Nada, nicked. Not one thing's going to happen to it. So I want to talk to you for just a minute about the importance of really honing your skills as a communicator. I went to Wake Forest University many, many years ago. Two most important classes I took, were not in my major field. They were two electives: Introduction to Speech and Oral Interpretation of Literature. Two most important courses I took because it got me up on my feet, communicating verbally in front of others. And really, that's what I've been doing for the last 50 years or so. Leadership generally gravitates to the man or woman who can talk. That's generally who we elect to office. That's generally who gets the CEO post, or the head coaching job, or the principal job in a school, that man or woman who can talk. So take some speech courses. Get working on it. Join Toastmasters. Join the National Speakers Association. Hire a speech coach. Oh, and by the way, when you study the great communicators, they all had one thing in common. They were all great storytellers. We are hardwired to retain stories, not PowerPoints. Thank goodness. So Jesus did his communication primarily with his parables. Those were stories. And Mr. Lincoln and his yarns, and John F. Kennedy and his quips, and Ronald Reagan and his tales. So save your stories, gang. Write them down. Keep them on file, because we just can't get enough of stories. I mean, long after the sermon is over and you're heading out to your car on Sunday morning, you may well have forgotten the pastor's 3 points in a prayer, but you'll never forget his stories. That's just how we're wired up. So you see, great leaders understand the importance of having a vision. Secondly, the importance of communicating that vision effectively. Here's the third thing I can tell you about leaders of excellence. They have people skills. Great leaders have people skills. That simply means that they are interested in other people. They have a heart for people. They care about other people. I mean, the entire person. When Henry Ford got that great assembly line going, producing automobiles in the last century, he once said, "Why is it that I get the entire person when all I really want are their hands?" he said. And one day, Richard Nixon in the White House said, "This job of president would actually be a pretty good job if you didn't have to deal with people," said Mr. Nixon. Well, leaders were always going to be dealing with people. And the great leaders care, and they have interest, and they take a deep, deep concern for people. What they really do, by the way, is they love people. Dabo Sweeney is the football coach at Clemson. And here's what he said yesterday in a little article on ESPN. Here's what Coach Sweeney said. He said, "The key to coaching is love. It's not knowledge. It's not discipline. If you love them, you can discipline them. If you love them, you can yell at them and laugh about it later. I love my guys. You can't fabricate that. It either is or isn't." I don't have to remind you that Jesus was a great lover of people. I mean, how he cared about people. I'm often intrigued when you think about it. He had a public ministry of 1,000 days, from age 30 to 33, about 1,000 days. Every day was packed with activity and things that he needed to get done. But inevitably, in his making his rounds, guess what would happen? Some person with a need would come along. Might be a blind man, might be a beggar, might be a woman by a well, might be a little tax collector up in a tree. And Jesus cared so much for people, he would always stop. His handlers probably were really upset because it was messing the schedule up. But Jesus' love for people was so great that he couldn't help himself. Had to get engaged. Had to spend time with people and work with them and help them. And that's really what great leaders do. They love people. Now, let's move to the fourth quality, to be a leader of excellence. We understand it takes vision, and you got to communicate your vision. People skills are vital to be a great leader. Here's the fourth thing I can tell you about leaders of excellence. It's called character. Counts in leadership. Character still counts in leadership. Listen, we've been in quite a debate in this country for numbers of years. One argument says if the polls are good, if the economy is good, the character stuff is not all that important. Others argue and say, you can't lead without character. So what's the deal? Well, a pretty fair country leader some years back by the name of Schwarzkopf, General Schwarzkopf, quite a hero. Here's what he said. He said, leadership consists of two vital ingredients, he said. He said, character and strategy. And then he said, if you have to do without one, do without the strategy, he said. And then General Schwarzkopf went on to add and say, I'm convinced that 95% of the breakdown of leadership in our country can be traced right back to a breakdown in character. So what are the qualities of character leaders? It's pretty basic stuff. Number one, they're honest. They tell the truth in every situation. You can take their word to the bank every time. Second quality, it's called integrity. It's an interesting word. It comes from the root word integer, which means one. So a leader of integrity, well, there's a consistency to their life. Their walk and talk match. A few years ago, I ran into Ken Whitten, who for many years was Coach Tony Dungy's pastor in Tampa, Florida. And here's what Ken Whitten said. He said, here's the deal with Tony Dungy. The tongue in his mouth is always pointing in the same direction as the tongue in his shoes. And then he said, whenever Tony has left a city after coaching there, that city is better off for him having been there. Third character quality, it's called responsibility. Character leaders are not finger pointers. Here's their attitude. This was done well, and I did it. This was done poorly, and I did it. But in either case, I take responsibility. Oh, how we need that in our society today. And one final thought on character and leadership. It's called humility. I'm in the process of writing a book right now called The Power of Humility. A humble spirit. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I do a radio show, a number of them each week in Orlando. Some years ago, I had as a guest Ruth Graham, Dr. Billy Graham's youngest daughter. She had just written a book, and we were talking about that on the radio. And then in the middle of the interview, I just said, Ruth, tell me about your dad. Tell me about Billy Graham. And daughter Ruth said, my daddy, said that with her North Carolina accent. And she had me right there. My daddy knows who he is, said Ruth, a flawed human being. And then she said, in Daddy's mind, he's still just a farm boy from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I thought, Dr. Billy Graham, who arguably is one of the 5 most famous people on earth in the last 100 years, has reached and preached to more people than anybody in history. And in his mind, just a farm boy from Charlotte. Now, folks, we've arrived at the fifth component, the fifth foundational block, if you want to be a leader of excellence. And it's called competence. Competence. And that simply means that leaders are good at what they do. And that begs the question, how do they get good? Born or made? Chicken or the egg? I mean, I get asked that question all the time. Are leaders born or made? And my answer is always the same. Both. Every leader that I'm aware of at some point was born. Every one of them. And at some point, every leader was developed. But between birth and development, something happened in the life of every leader. Something took place. Some incident took place where this person said, you know, this situation demands leadership, and nobody else is doing it, and I feel compelled to step up and lead. It could be on this campus. It could be something back home, could be something in your church, but some incident, something is going on, and you have to make a decision. I need to step up and lead this, because if I don't, nothing's going to happen, and it's important, and I need to get involved. And it could be right on this campus. Let me tell you something. My junior year at Wake Forest, my entire life changed. And leadership became part of my life when Jerry Steele, he was a senior on the basketball team. Back in those days, there was no freshman eligibility, so the freshmen had their own game. And there was a freshman varsity basketball game that had to be put on by the Monogram Club. Jerry came to me and said, we haven't done anything on this. The game's a week away. Big old Jerry, 6'8", 240 pounds, and he said, I'm putting you in charge. Me, I was a catcher on the baseball team, and I didn't want to fool with that. And Jerry said, you're it. Whew. And so for the next week, I pulled together people, and we hustled around and got a band to play, and we got a halftime show, and we had to get tickets printed, and we had to get promotion and advertising. It was unbelievable. And guess what happened? We pulled it off. It was quite a night. And I really got bitten by the bug. Oh my, I had a marvelous experience. I felt so good, and it was just wonderful. And guess what's happened for the last 50 years or so? That's what I've been doing every day in the world of sports to make a living. Running sports teams in baseball and now in the NBA for almost 50 years. And it all started when Jerry Steele said, you're it. You got to lead this thing. I never would have done it on my own, but it changed my life. So great leaders are good at what they do, and somewhere along the line they made the decision and said, this is my moment, or somebody made the decision for them, this is my moment. So great leaders are competent in what area? Well, number one, solving problems. Colin Powell reminds us that leadership is solving problems, and he said when soldiers stop bringing you their problems, you're through as a leader. And here's another competency of great leaders. They are great teachers. Every great leader in sports that I've ever studied never talked about coaching. They always talked about teaching. John Wooden, the great UCLA legend. I was teaching these young men under my supervision, yes, how to be good players, but more importantly, how to be good citizens. Lifelong teachers. That's what you're going to be. Oh, and to be a lifelong teacher, may I point out, you're going to have to be a lifelong learner. Because when you graduate from Liberty, probably within a week, your whole resume, your whole education will be dated, because the world is changing and moving so fast. If you're not on the cutting edge of learning every day for the rest of your life, you're going to be flushed out of the parade of life because it's changing so fast. And you've got to be a lifelong learner. So, how does one become a lifelong learner? Number one, continue your formal education. Every one of you is going to need a master's degree. So start thinking about how you're going to get that done. And some may go on and get a PhD, but take your formal education really seriously. Second way to be a lifelong learner, hang with really smart people. The smartest people you can find. Call them mentors, call them coaches, call them sages. I mean, I don't care what you call them. But you need a good team of people who have been down the road. They've already made the mistakes. They've learned from it. And guess what? They want to help you avoid all of that. Wise are the young people. Wise are the young people who have a team of mentors who they listen to and follow their advice. Because we don't have time to make all the mistakes in the world, and mentors will help us there. Third way to be a lifelong learner, be a lifelong reader. President Harry Truman years ago said, "Not all readers will be leaders, but all leaders must be readers." And we become a nation addicted to screens, movie screens and television screens and computer screens and video games. And in the process, the written word has taken a back seat. But I'm going to suggest here, gang, that you can change that. And you can have a huge impact, not just on you, but people around you by being a lifelong reader. So I'm going to challenge you, starting today, to read 1 hour every day the rest of your life from a book. Not the same book, but from books. This is aside from your schoolwork. And in my little drill, never pick up a book you're not interested in. If you'll read 1 hour a day, at the end of 1 week, you'll have read a book. 1 year, 52 books. And if you read the right 5 books on any one subject, you'll be considered a world-leading authority on that subject. The average man, upon finishing high school, will not read another book the rest of his life. 85% of all the books purchased in this country are purchased by women. Now, I'm going to break some good news to you. Guess what I discovered here on your campus? Guess what I discovered yesterday? A bookstore. Yes. Do you realize there's a Barnes & Noble right in the middle of your campus? How cool is that? Oh, and I've got some other good news. They have ordered into the campus bookstore a huge supply of my latest book. I mean, they're right there. And you can go over and make a little purchase today. The name of the book is called Leadership Excellence. And that which I am sharing with you, I wrote about in this book. And Why don't you pay him a little visit this weekend? So here's where we are, gang. You got to have vision as a leader. You've got to be able to communicate that vision. It takes people skills, and you've got to have character, and competence is vital. Now, here is the sixth ingredient to be a leader of excellence. It is called boldness. Not baldness, sir, boldness. And that means leaders have to make decisions. They gather information, they listen carefully, but when it's time to make a decision, they make the decision. And they move on. And they don't look back. And they don't second guess themselves. And they don't play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. If only if I could just redo it. Because there are no redos in leadership, no mulligans. And listen, I can still hear George W. years ago in the White House. Here's what he said. I'm the decider. I decide what to do. I decide what's right. Then they'd rip his head off, and hand it to him on a platter, which is all part of leadership as well. But every organization has got to have a decider. It takes courage to step up and be a bold leader. And that brings us to the seventh and final point I want to share with you here this morning. To be a leader of excellence, it takes a serving heart mentality. Now, here's the mindset of a serving-hearted leader. It's not about me. It's always about you. It's not about building my resume. It's about building yours. It's not about advancing my career goals. It's about advancing yours. It's not about my personal success, but it's about the success of this organization that I am leading. That's the mindset of a serving-hearted leader. And when a man or a woman really grasps the significance of that quality, oh my, things change. Families change. Organizations change. Teams change. When that serving-hearted mentality hits. Jesus teaches us all about that. The Bible really is filled with information about Jesus as a serving-hearted leader. In fact, if I were to summarize his thoughts on it, here's what they would be. You want to be great? You want to be big time? You want to really live to your full potential? Then start serving others. Right now, start serving others. That's really how Jesus put it. That's how he taught. He said, the Son of Man has not come to be served, but to serve. And when that mentality hits, oh my, wonderful things happen. So here's the deal, gang. 7 things one must do to be a leader, right and true. Have vision that is strong and clear. Communicate so they can hear. Have people skills based in love and character that's far above. The competence to solve and teach, and boldness that has fearless reach. A serving heart that stands close by to help, assist, and edify. Lead on, my friends, and may God bless you.